I'm Billy, welcome to the channel, here are my top games of 2021. Starting the year off with a high-octane survival arcade shooter was certainly not on my bingo card, but Writhe was a surprising bit of fun that had me hooked for a week or two as I tried to improve my score and take out the monstrous Sago Worm menace. Created by a pair of developers who were inspired by their engagement trip to Thailand, it's a game born out of love, and you can feel it when you play. So pick up some guns, select a stage, and blow up some worms on your way to work, on a long flight, or in the comfort of your own home. That's the Nintendo Switch effect for ya. Talk about an upgrade. New Pokmon Snap takes the exciting format of the original N64 title and bolsters every aspect for a modern audience. More courses, day and night variants, an expansive Pokemon roster, a light story mode, the reappearance of Mr. Todd Snap himself, and so much more. Every initial run through a new course is a magical experience, as you see all your favorite Pokemon in their natural habitats, and you'll constantly be finding new interactions to snap and enjoy. It fits perfectly on the Switch, and despite not having Mudkip, is easily the best Pokemon game of 2021. Why? Life-size Wailord? Yacht Club Games stepping into the role of publisher is a bold move for the company behind Shovel Knight, but if this move brings us fully realized titles like Cyber Shadow, I say keep up the good work. Giving Arnie Hunziker's side-scrolling cyberpunk platformer some backing allowed myself and others to discover this Ninja Gaiden-inspired title for ourselves. Easy to pick up, yet brutal to master, Cyber Shadow forces you to adapt and become better with Shadow's moveset. From the tricky parrying system, the host of extra ninja tools, and his movement skills, you'll probably die, and die again, but if you push through, you'll leave a true ninja master. Can it be unfair at times? Yes. God, yes. But if you're a fan of old NES and SNES platformers, you'll feel right at home. Everhood is a game that hasn't been talked about enough this year. A rhythm-based RPG where you have to avoid attacks by jumping, dodging, or deflecting in a Guitar Hero-style environment. It's filled with a colourful cast of characters, each with their own jamming theme tune, custom boss fight, and hilarious dialogue. You have to find your lost arm and discover the secrets of the world of Everhood. While the retro art style evokes a certain 2015 indie darling, this game has an identity all of its own that certainly goes to places you wouldn't expect. If there's one game I urge you to pick up and play without any prior knowledge, it's Everhood. You can get it on Steam or on Switch. Did you know that you can legally play games that came out before 2021 in the year 2021? I did. And that's why I'm talking about Blazblue Calamity Trigger, a great 2D fighter that spawned a whole series, and the game I played because I couldn't play Guilty Gear Strive, and because my boyfriend bought me the whole Blazblue series on Steam, blending a visual novel-like story with a unique cast of fighters, from classic big sword edgelord to a child with a lot of family issues. These characters all fight differently and provide unique playstyles, only fleshed out further in future games. Bang is trash though, go back to Naruto where you belong, you I 100%ed this game, and I don't regret it. Persona 5 as a brand has certainly gained a reputation over the years, but this sequel to the 2016 original was a great blend of two very distinct genres. The SP system really allows Persona 5 Strikers to feel more like a JRPG than a normal Musou title, and gives this game a very specific identity. All the characters feel fantastic to control, and the story presentation, while at times feeling like a retread of Persona 5's story with a different coat of paint, was satisfying enough to see me to the credits. The gameplay loop was just incredibly fun, addictive, and backed by Lynn's gorgeous jazzy vocals. So what more could you ask from Persona 5 Strikers? A Persona based on Jean Valjean from Les Miserables? Let's go! Switch re-releases really are giving games a new lease on life. Just look at Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury as a prime example. Myself and many others got to experience 3D World for the first time, which is a phenomenal course-based Mario game that throws so many unique gimmicks at the kitchen sink, and would be my personal choice for course-based Mario going forwards. But Bowser's Fury was the real star of the show. Non-linear progression with island objectives shifting in seamless fashion after every visit, it was mind-blowing leaving Scamper Shores only to return and find a completely different challenge setup, with 0 loading screens. Bowser's Fury has shown a future for 3D Mario that could actually set up a seamless, interconnected world, and I can only hope that Nintendo takes full advantage of this setup for the next big Mario installment. My appetite has been whetted, and that's not just because Fury Bowser was on screen, hey Bowser. Deltarune Chapter 2 was the surprise release of the year that nobody was expecting, but Toby Fox hasn't let us down yet, and the quality on display from the new music tracks like Cyberworld and Big Shot, to giving us the absolute best character of the year hands down with Queen, to creating a unique Cybertech-inspired cityscape for us to explore that is reminiscent of what the core from Undertale could have been, Toby did it again. Deltarune continues to excite and inspire gamers across the world, and with new mechanics like battles being further enhanced by giving Susie and Ralsei act abilities, or spared enemies returning to Castletown to bolster your hub world, chapters 3 to 5 can't come soon enough. Uncharted is over 14 years old, but the original title still holds up to this day as an exciting, fast-paced action-adventure romp that took me right back to my childhood. The graphics are so colourful and vibrant, reminiscent of early 3D platformers and adventure titles before colours became less saturated. The level design created the foundations for the genre as we know it today, and while it's got its fair share of glitches and exploits, they only add to the charm that made me fall in love with this title during my first playthrough earlier this year. Sometimes games can be, well, just fun. And I can't wait to dive into the rest of Uncharted in 2022. If Resident Evil 7 was a return to the roots of what makes Resident Evil terrifying, Resident Evil Village was a return to the campy nature of this series, inspired by B-list horror movies. Exploring the titular locale is akin to a theme park, with each location being its own brand of horror. Ethan Winters is able to take a more proactive approach this time around, with his military training taking the fight to the villains. And when the villains are as intriguing as Lady Dimitrescu, well, it's a recipe for success. The level design is tight, the exploration is fantastic, the enemies are tough, Ethan controls great, and when the game wants to scare you, it can and it will. And I'll always remember this fondly as the game I got to play while visiting my partner after a year-long wait due to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. I was always more of an NSYNC fan myself. Bye bye bye. Inscription is a horror deck-building roguelike that combines an interesting premise with a genuinely engaging and enjoyable gameplay loop. You have to sacrifice your animal cards to summon greater monsters, while doing damage to your opponents in order to tip a pair of scales in your favor. Sigils, totems, boons, and more create a unique system that rewards your experimentation. Combined with an escape the room element where you can leave the game table and interact with objects throughout the cabin, there's more at play than meets the eye. And that's all I'll say. It's genuinely a fantastic experience, including a modded mode created by the developers that makes the core gameplay even tougher. Blind is the best way to play this game, just trust me. Any of these 4 final games could be my favorite of the year, but Endwalker stands out as the culmination of a story that's been over a decade in the making. Final Fantasy XIV's latest expansion was so good, the game was pulled from retail for a time due to the sheer amount of players wanting to play the game. That is the highest praise you can receive in my humble opinion. The story is satisfying, filled with twists and turns that keep you on your toes. The new jobs and balance changes to old jobs are mostly positive. I'm loving how Bard plays now, and some of the mains are eating well tonight. The new locations are stunning, and Masayoshi Soken continues to hit out of the park with his soundtrack. All I can really say is... Did you know that the critically acclaimed MMORPG... So Metroid Dread came out this year. It's not on my list, because I haven't played it. So instead I just played all the other Metroid games, with my favorite being Metroid Prime. How Retro Studios nailed the formula for 3D Metroid on their first attempt with only a few minor slip-ups that got fixed for the sequels is insane. From the opening on the frigate Orpheon where you see Samus for the first time and get to be behind her visor, to the amazing vistas of Talon 4, you feel immersed in this world, Samus controls like a dream. She has so many abilities at her disposal, and combining them with a brilliant sense of progression, you're always making progress. I was sucked into this game from start to finish, and with rumors of a remake on the way for Switch, it's a great time to be a Metroid fan. Monster Hunter Rise wasn't on my radar at the start of the year. I'd barely dabbled in Monster Hunter, but somehow Rise was the game to make me understand this series. You don't know how many hours of my time was spent in Monster Hunter Rise this year. With my trusty hunting horn, tracking down and slaying all those monsters never felt so good. The endemic life allowed you to really feel like you were using everything at your disposal to overcome the odds, while the wirebug mechanics allowed for fresh movement and attack options. But the Palamutes were the star of the show. Any game that lets me ride around on a doggo instantly is a winner in my book. It's the most beginner-friendly Monster Hunter out there, and is getting even more content next year with a new DLC expansion. So if this game can't get you invested in Monster Hunter, nothing can. And it's coming to Windows in 2022 for those of you who want that high frame rate experience. While Amore technically came out at the very end of 2020, it's basically a 2021 game for everyone who played it, and my experience streaming this game from start to finish with my partner was magical. This game manages to deal with incredibly complex themes, and at the same time, you will be fighting a Windows-era pop-up message, or X-Planet Pluto. It's got a charm that's reminiscent of Earthbound, another game I played for the first time this year, but manages to weave a narrative that had me enthralled and emotional by the denouement. While it had a very troubled development cycle that game devs definitely should learn from, the finished product was a masterpiece of the indie game scene and fully deserves all the praise it gets. Crazy fun enemy designs, catchy and beautiful music, a great art direction that permeates the entire game, and so much content. It's my game of the year, and maybe one day I'll do a video covering the game in more depth. But for now, let's celebrate its recent release on Switch, a major milestone for Omocat and the team. 2021 is over, 2022 is just beginning, and maybe this'll be the year I realize what I want to do with my life. But until then, I've got more than enough games to keep me company. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.